Hey, Rick Sayes here. Welcome to another episode of the Outdoor Biz Podcast, where I hope to provide entertaining conversations with retailers, brand managers, athletes, executives, and others in the outdoor biz to get their stories, tips, strategies, productivity tricks, and ideas that you can apply and take your career or business to the next level. Today's podcast is brought to you by Audible. I've used Audible for many years now. I'm on the road a lot, and Audible allows me to enjoy the great books I discover or are recommended by friends. Get a free audiobook download and 30-day free trial at www.audibletrial.com/theoutdoorbizpodcast. There are over 180,000 titles to choose from for your iPhone, Android, Kindle, or MP3 player. Start your 30-day free trial with Audible today. This episode is with Crazy Jack Northam, who has climbed Mount Whitney over 170 times. Jack tells us how he got into the outdoors and some great stories from his multiple climbs of Whitney. Hey guys, today I'm speaking with Crazy Jack Northam. He has summited Mount Whitney over 150 times. Welcome to the show, Jack.
Thank you. Welcome to be here.
Yeah, good to have you on. So did you, I hear you're right, you just got back from Lone Pine recently?
We did.
Nice.
It's a annual wife's birthday party, you might want to say. And I would say, what do you want to do for your birthday? And she always says, well, let's go to Lone Pine. So I say, well, let's go.
Nice. Yeah, that's a great spot to be.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I'm headed back up to Bishop tomorrow. I'm down in Coronado this morning.
Oh, okay. Good.
Yeah, awesome. So let's start with your first exposure to the outdoors. How'd you get into this whole climbing, backpacking thing?
Well, I guess it was when I was in the Marine Corps. I was in from 1966 to 1970, and my wife and I got married in 68. And I married into her family had 2 brothers and 2 more sisters, so 5 kids, and she was a preacher's kid. So Father Sadler, who was his name, and he would take church groups up into the Sierras, and I mean it was quite an undertaking, and so I was invited, obviously, to go along with that one, and it's my first real experience in the Sierras and the backcountry. And I can remember hiking in my heavy duty boots and my 10-pound mummy bag, and what an experience! But I guess that opened the door for it.
That's awesome. So how many people would he take? I mean,
he would take up to about 30 people.
Wow!
And he would actually, they had the mules that would bring everything, all the big equipment in, and it took quite a setup to get everything, organized and put it all in a good spot. But and then you have a lot of different things they have to do, and find pine cones and count pine needles, and I mean all kinds of fun stuff. And
cool.
So it was really a neat experience, and it just opened my eyes to anything. I had never been in that area, anything like that before.
Did you grow up in California?
I did. I was a LA kid for quite a while, and bounced around a lot. And then fortunately, whichever you want to call it, I had to move to Seattle when I was in the 9th grade, and quite a transition from Southern California. And the first year I never went outside because it rained all the time. And then, you figure out if you don't go out in the rain, you're not going to go outside.
That's right.
So I was there for 3 years, and then was able to come back to Southern California, San Fernando Valley, for my senior year in high school. And then so I've been here ever since.
Cool. Yeah. And so this group would go, you set up a base camp and you just day hike, or what was?
Yeah, just day hike, and big campfires. That was the time when you could have campfires and take a Sierra Cup and dip in the streams. And those were fun times,
Yeah.
And,
was he a Sierra Club guy? How did he get his?
Not really. He just was, I wouldn't call him a Sierra Club person, but he loved the outdoors, and, his time was limited, obviously, but that was just his time away from church, and just loved to go out and have other people experience the same thing.
Yeah, that's awesome.
He was an outdoor guy. He lived until he was 92, and he was body surfing when he was 91 right here in Ocean Beach. So he was quite an outdoor guy.
That's awesome.
But great mentor for that stuff. So.
And so was your first climb to Mount Whitney with that group?
No, my first climb was, my wife and I had hiked around the Sierras, and after his passing, and then also just as our vacation time, and we'd always heard about Whitney, but I had no aspirations, and thought, well, maybe that should be a fun trip to do. But finally it just hit. I don't know. I was 50 years old, and not that the age had anything to do with it, but it was just ironic that was 50. And we said, well, let's go for this thing. And
Yeah.
so we made a trip up and back. And I can remember reporting in to Doug at the Portal store to say, well, we just made this thing in 15 hours. And he says, oh, that's pretty good. But there was a 91-year-old lady that did it in about 11. I said, oh. Walked out with my tail between my legs and said, okay. So that was our first hike, and
awesome.
Went from there. Yeah.
So that stirred the competitive juices, and you had to get back after it? No?
Yeah, well, you always go after you go once. I mean, a lot of people will say once is enough, and that's it for me. But I think we had so much fun on it that we would want to go again. And then the next trip, actually, we had a trip with my wife's sister and her husband, who was a cancer survivor, and so we invited them to come along. And then the third trip basically was by ourselves, and it was such where this is so beautiful, and if you can just get the peace and quiet of it all, and the enjoyment of going up a mountain. And at that point, I heard about a gentleman named Mr. Bob Rockwell, who lived in Ridgecrest, and he'd been up over 100 times. Well, I didn't know if anybody had been up over 100 times, and I heard about this, and I said to my wife, I said, gee, do you think that's something that I could accomplish? And she says, well, if you want to go for it, I'm all for it. And so that's when it started. I mean, I kind of, next time, I think I went up maybe 6 times the next year. And so it's been an endeavor now for 20 years. And now I'm up to 170 times.
170, holy cow, right.
Yeah, still having fun.
And so when did you form Crazy Jack, the speaking and motivational stuff? And
well, that Crazy Jack kind of came about from people that would encounter me, and they said, are you that guy that does it all the time? and I when I was 50, I hate to use the numbers, from
that's
50
all right.
to 70, but I think
yeah.
it's kind of a reference point especially for me. But when I was 56, I had this crazy notion of saying I could do this twice in one day. I mean, it's a 22-mile round trip and a day hike, but if you add that twice. And so
that's a big day.
That's a big
for anybody.
And it took 21 hours, and I got it done. But and I said I'll never do that again. When people say, "Well, I heard you did this twice in a day," and I said, "Yeah," and they said, "Well, that's crazy." And then they'd hear something else about me doing it like every day for a couple of days in a row, and they say, "Jack, that is really crazy." And then I think the topping was when I was I had a rock that I got very familiar with, stepping on it every single time I went by it. And it just was a touchstone. It was my Wilson, if you want to call it that. And so in the middle of the night, I would always see it. And so here I was one trip coming up, and I didn't see it. And I knew exactly where it's supposed to be. And I just panicked. And I'm looking all over the place. I'm on my hands and knees crawling around saying, where is this rock? And somebody walks by and they go, oh my gosh, are you okay? And I said, yeah, I'm just looking for a rock. Well, then they go, uh-oh, this guy's been in altitude way too long. And they come down and said, this is crazy guy up there looking for a rock. And I think somebody responds, no, that's just Jack. That's just Crazy Jack. So that's how the name came to be. It's kind of stuck now.
Did you find the rock?
I did. What happened, Rick, was there was a trail crew that had been working someone in the area, and I think they flipped it over because the round part was the part that I always saw on the top, but they flipped it over, and it was now the flat was on the top. And when I figured it out, I mean, I waited. I was there at least 10 minutes hunting around, and finally I went to the summit, came back to it, and I finally found it. I've moved it off the trail about 5 feet or 4 feet, so then I know exactly where it is, and nobody's even going to walk on it. And now the joke is, well, when I can't go up anymore, is anybody going to bring my rock back down to me? And I don't think so. It's about the size of a basketball. It's been a lot of fun just to say, it's okay, I'm here and I'm still doing it. And how are you doing? And the rock doesn't answer, which is good. So I don't know. It's just one of those crazy things. And
so the Crazy Jack, we'll put a link to this in the show notes for everybody. So you do a bunch of motivational speeches and things, presentations and whatnot. About how many of those do you do a year?
Well, it's getting started, Rick. Honestly, I was doing you and I met at Adventure 16, and I've been doing John Mead's A16 stores for maybe 4, 5, 6 years now.
Yeah.
And so what happened from there was people said, Jack, that you're really motivating us. And I didn't understand exactly what all that meant. I mean, how can I motivate somebody when I'm not even talking to them? But when they hear what I do,
sure, it's inspirational. Yeah.
And so I thought, well, maybe there's something out there for me to do. And so it's been a slow process. I'm really excited about making this thing happen, but I have talked to Boy Scouts. I've talked to
Great.
a seniors group. I talked to country club people. Anybody that wants, if somebody stopped me on the street and asked me about Walt Whitney, I always say, well, how much time do you have? Because I'm ready to talk and ready to motivate. But it's really inspirational for me to have somebody come up to me and at the portals or the Whitney and say, hey, Jack, I know you don't know me, but I know you, and you have just inspired us to make this thing happen. And I said, well, I really appreciate that. It's something I love to do, and I know other people could do it too if they were willing to want to go out and not just Whitney. There's other areas in the outdoors that people could go out and enjoy.
Oh, exactly.
If they just wanted to get a little bit of motivation going and say, yeah, I could do that too. So that's how it kind of goes from there. But I'm excited about going out and get on tour if I could and do a Whitney talk, do a motivational talk, because I just think it's fun and exciting for everybody.
Yeah, I would think that some of the other local groups, some of the local outdoor brands like Eagle Creek and other folks, you would be interested in having at a sales meeting or some kind of a company-wide meeting or something. It's very inspirational, the consistency and the amount of times you've done it. It's amazing.
Yeah, I need to have a connection. Maybe you're my connection, but I
need
to have a connection to some of these other organizations that, I was told of Fortune 500 people. If you ever talk to a Fortune 500 company, you're in. And I don't know if I'm Fortune 500, but I know that I do have a lot of fun things to share with people. And also just the fact that I'm still doing it, which is not something that you say, 10 years ago, I used to do this. No, I'm actively doing it. I went up 9 times in this past August. And,
wow.
and I'm still, I quit doing the doubles, but I do still one trip out of the 9 is a long extended hike, 45 miles. And it's down from the town of Lone Pine, if anybody knows, and you have to hike up the road also to the summit and all the way back down to Lone Pine. So that took 19 and a half hours.
So you do one of those 9 trips was from the town, not from the portal. Okay.
No, from the town. No car.
Wow, that's impressive.
Needed.
Holy
cow.
Yeah.
And it's a long day, but it's something that I still enjoy doing. And just to show people that, hey, just because you're even 70, it doesn't mean that you're done. I kind of figure my 70 mark is, I'm going to call it at least halfway of my Whitney experiences, because I still plan on hiking this thing when I'm 90 years old.
Awesome, man.
I'm going to be in the record books for being the craziest guy to hike it, if nothing else.
There you go. So you've been up and down a bunch of times. What has been your funniest moment on Whitney?
Oh my gosh.
There's probably a few.
There's a few, but I'll have to tell you, I think the funniest moment for me was on a day that I was doing it twice. And when you do it twice, you have to logistically plan out your day. You just don't say, okay, I guess I'll do it twice today. There's a lot of thought going into it, a lot of planning. And so what I basically do the first one at night. It's a total night hike, or you start at dusk, whatever, and then you finish up around 5 o'clock in the morning. So the second time you do it, and at least you can be in the daytime, and if something goes wrong, at least people are right around you in the daytime. So
if you're more tired or something, right?
Yeah, exactly. So I'm on the second leg, and when you start the second leg, it's really just one step in front of the other. It's not a matter of, okay, how fast can I get this done, and no, it's really just concentrating on one step. Yeah, that's a grind. So I'm within a quarter of a mile from the very top. I know exactly where I'm at, and I'm feeling like this is working. I'm going to make this happen, even though you just still have to remember, you got to go back down 11 miles back down. It's not over when you get to the top. So anyway, I'm charging along, and here's a lady that sees me coming, and she pulls off the trail for me, which I truly appreciate. And she says, oh my gosh, you were looking so good, and you were going to make it. And I said, well, thank you. And if I probably, was humble enough, I should have stopped right there just for the thank you. But actually I said, thank you, but actually this is my second time today. And she looked at me like, and then she says, oh, did you forget something on the top? And I said, oh, no, I'm just being crazy. But can you imagine? I share that with my folks in groups, and they just howl, because the idea of turning around and going back up, I don't care what it was, I would leave it unless you're crazy like me. So that was one of my really, really funniest stories.
That's really funny.
Another one that crossed my mind real quick was two gentlemen that were hiking the trail, and I caught up to them. It took me some time to catch up to them, but that was always in my day. That was a challenge to catch up to the next person. And I caught up, and I said, "Hey, guys, you hiking well? Have you done it before?" And they said, "No, this is our first time." I said, "Well, geez, you're really doing good." They said, "Yeah, it's okay." So we didn't talk much, but I went ahead and passed them up and summited. So now I'm coming in down. I'm about a mile from the top, and I see these two guys again, because it's a one-way trail most of the time.
Yeah.
And they wave their arms cross and, "Okay, dude, stop. And I stop, and they says, "Who the heck are you?" And I said, "Oh, they call me Crazy Jack." And this guy says, "Well, I'm going to tell you something." And I said, "Okay." He says, "We're hiking the highest peaks in all 50 states in 50 days. And I said,
impressive.
"What?
Wow.
What? Excuse me? Say that again?" Because I know I didn't hear it right. He says, "Yeah, 50, 50, 50.
Wow.
I said, "Well, that's absolutely incredible." And he says, "Yeah." And he says, "But that's not why I stopped you." I said, "Okay, why?" And he says, "Because you passed us up." And I said, "Well, yeah, I did." He says, "But this is Mountain 47. I said, "Wow, you are almost done." He says, "Yeah, but you know what? Up until today, you were the first person to pass us up."
Wow, that's impressive.
And I said, "Oh, no." I said, "Well, dude, you're on my mountain. What do you want?" I mean,
right. You're my home turf. Yeah.
Yeah, but and that was their. But they did. They actually made it in about 44 days in some sense, and I was just at awe.
That's
Anybody
impressive.
Logistically, it just like was unbelievable.
Sure.
But he says, "No, you passed us up." And I said, "Well, I know, and maybe you're a little tired. I mean, after 40 other 6 mountains, but so that was just a coincidental story, that happening on the mountain. But there's 100 more, but you don't have time, and you wouldn't want to bore the people."
No, this is great. I think people are going to enjoy the heck out of this. So how about some? Most of them are probably fairly routine. Was there one where you were a little on the edge, or something was happening that was a little on the edge? You had to.
Oh yeah. I probably shouldn't have been on the mountain, but it was an October trip, and usually when we. By the way, this October trip, I made up my mind I wasn't going to go up to the summit. And you know what? I probably missed the most beautiful summit day ever in October, but that's okay. But there was an October trip, started out, and usually these October trips are mid-October. It's a day hike, and my wife started with me, and she turned around about trail camp, which is roughly 6 miles, and the wind was just blowing right through you. I mean, it was cold. It was clear, but it was cold wind. And I get to Trail Crest, which is 13.6, and people they're turning around and saying, don't go. The wind is just, we're not going to go any further. And I said, well, unfortunately, I'm crazy. I guess I'll just keep going.
Hey, they get some 100+ mile an hour winds up there frequently.
They really do. And so here I was on the backside of heading towards Whitney, and the wind is going across the chimneys and across the openings and the windows. And there was a point where I had to actually get down and crouch, because I had a fear that I could get knocked. I mean, I'm not a heavy guy, as you know, and they could just knock me right off. Right. Yeah, exactly. Wow. And I was the only person to summit that day. Not that was a big deal, but it was probably the most stupidest thing I did, because it was really, really dangerous. And I knew within myself that I was going to be okay. But when the wind knocks you around like it was knocking me around, and believe it or not, that night, the winter moved in, because they brought in a snowstorm that was just insane.
Wow.
And anybody that was at trail camp, they had to come back out. Nobody summited their point after as a summer or a fall hike. And I can still remember that hike, just because.
What year was that? Any give or take?
Oh, I'm going to say it was at least 15 years ago.
Okay, yeah.
Because it was early in my career, and I was doing stupid things then. But I remember Bob Rockwell, my friend, so-called friend, Ed, who was actually at trail camp. And when I encountered him, I told him how, I had to crouch to get across the window. Well, he was nice enough to write on the Whitney Portal message board that Jack didn't. He crawled across.
Thanks, Bob.
Bob, thanks a lot. I'm not crawling, but at any rate, it was a zoo, and he had to bring. He was the Sherpa that brought everybody back down, because the trail was lost at this point, most of the trail from the snow. So it was quite
it gets pretty
adventure.
dangerous up there.
Yeah, quite an adventure.
So how have the other hikers changed over the years? I'm sure,
gosh,
you've been doing it long enough.
Yeah, I wish I could say they've changed to the better, but I don't know. Now that we've kind of labeled generations, I hate to, I mean, I guess I'm called a baby boomer, but the currently generation, I don't want to say they're all. You can't categorize and say they're all bad.
No,
people.
they're not all.
They're
No,
not.
right,
They're
right,
not. But
right,
every
right.
now and then you'll run into a group that they don't have any trail etiquette.
Yeah,
In other words.
Yeah.
It's all me on the trail. Forget anybody else. I'm going to run you over if you're in my way. And there's no such thing as stopping and pulling over for anybody. And I believe trail etiquette means, if somebody's coming up, they have the right of way on the trail. If it's a one-way trail, they have the right of way unless they decide not to, and then let that person come on by. But I found that a lot of these current hikers just have this, it's my trail and move over for me. And then when you do, there's no thank yous. And I understand a lot of those people, of course, the top are maybe comatose because they're oblivious to the fact that maybe I was on the trail too. I moved over for them. And there was no thank yous.
Maybe too, they're just hammered. They're just so.
Oh, I think so.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I can see it in their faces, and it makes me wonder what kind of trip if they're really having fun or not. But the hikers, and I think, unfortunately, I hate to say it, but sometimes the trail is not enough. They just would prefer to go straight down. So they're cutting shortcuts and switchbacks But some
you see
of them
a lot of
again
that all over the Sierra.
Yeah. Oh yeah, isn't that a shame? I tell people when I do a talk about Whitney, and I start off by saying, you know what, folks, if we just now discovered Mount Whitney, there is no trail there now. Let's say we just discovered Mount Whitney.
Right.
Do you actually think that somebody would build a trail to Mount Whitney? And most of the time, everybody says no. And I said, I agree. I don't think so either.
Right.
So I think that
nobody could afford it.
No, that's right. And the work involved and the time involved.
Right,
And I said, I believe that we need to respect the fact that they did in 1904 build a trail to Mount Whitney. And if you take a shortcut off of just because you're going to save 10 feet, that's not doing justice to their work and their trail. And
I think we've seen that all over the years, throughout the years. A lot of people have done it. I think the challenge now is there's just so many more of us that when when one or two people do it, it's a bummer, but it doesn't really create a new trail. Now that there's 25 people doing it,
you're right.
Now there's a new trail.
You're right.
So,
and unfortunately, people will come up in the spring of Whitney, and then it's more difficult when there's so much snow, and then sometimes the snow will block the main trail. Well, then you take a shortcut down But, I enjoy meeting people on the trail of all ages. And, I've seen a 6-year-old summit Mount Whitney, and I've seen people that are in their 80s summit Mount Whitney. But I want to believe that we're all out there to do the same thing. I don't think anybody's getting paid to do it. If you are, let me know how to do that, because I could, I would.
Well, Kurt Wedberg, don't you?
Yeah, absolutely.
He gets paid to do it.
He does. You're right. And my wife's paid him too.
There you go.
My wife hired Kurt to take her up the east face of Whitney. So that was quite an adventure, and she made it.
That's great.
Kurt's a great friend. And as a matter of fact, I'm going to put a plug in. We're going to celebrate our 50th wedding anniversary next August 30th, 2018. And we've hired Kurt to take us up the Mountaineers route. And
cool.
And I don't know if you know that Kurt is ordained minister.
I do know that.
Kurt will perform the ceremonies for us, and so he's all excited, and we're all excited too. So
there you go, folks. So be on the mountain next August.
That's right. If you can get the permit, let me know.
Yeah, exactly right. So, what's the strangest piece of gear or outfit you've seen someone hiking?
Oh my gosh, I've seen. Oh geez, you name it. From tutus to
really.
Yeah, I've even heard. I heard the story, and I missed it. That people went up nude, and I said, "Geez, how did I miss that day?" Literally.
Yeah, come on.
But the strangest thing I've actually seen, when I heard this person was going to be on the mountain, and about mile 9 or so out of 11, here he comes, and he's barefooted.
Oh, wow.
And I've heard of this before, but I had no visual contact to say, "Are you kidding me?"
Right.
And sure enough, there he was. He walked by me barefooted, and so I was on the way up, and I couldn't help but just kind of stare at his feet. And so evidently he'll come down in sandals. But the other funny thing about that episode was, after that, when that day was over, I got down to the Whitney Portal store, and there was a young man there having a hamburger, and I recognized him on the trail, and I said, hey, did you see that guy that was barefooted? And his response was, yeah, he's my dad. And I went, oh my gosh, to myself, I'm glad I didn't say stupid, crazy, or whatever,
Right, right.
But yeah, he said his dad had always had kind of knee and hip problems. And from the time he went barefooted, it was all solved. And so he actually got the calluses, and he said he does go up barefooted, but he comes down in sandals. But to me, that was one of the craziest. I've always kid people. I said, you could lose anything you wanted to lose, but don't lose your shoes or your boots, so now that's out the window too.
Right. But, so what other activities do you do?
Oh, I just, I'm an outdoor guy. I mean, I've always been outdoors. I do like to ride bicycles. I'll have the distinction to say that I've actually raced in the very first Tour of California.
Oh, cool.
Only don't tell people that was 1975 when we did that. That was an amateur race, and it was a stage race, and it was so much fun. And so I enjoy cycling. I hate to admit that this is not outdoor, but I've taken up a new bowling again because I'm determined I'm going to roll a 250 game. But anyway, I like to do that on Tuesday mornings. I've just recently retired from being a roofer. So, you talk about outdoors. I was outdoors.
Hard work outdoors,
8 hours a day. And I think that's probably why I've been so intrigued with mountains, because I was on each morning. I was on somebody's little mountain.
Right. You've been peaks and gables all over Southern California.
And I was an assistant baseball coach and actually head coach for 30 years at Point Loma Nazarene University baseball, cool. And I was head coach for 3 years there and enjoyed every minute of that. So that's always, I couldn't wait to get off of work so I could go be outdoors some more.
That's great.
And play baseball and coach baseball. And so I've always been an outdoor guy. It comes easy to me, and I'll when the sun goes down, then I can come in and sit down and watch a little television. But that's me.
That's good, yeah. So do you have any suggestions or advice for folks wanting to get into hiking or backpacking?
Boy, you could just start today by just putting on your walking shoes and walk around the block, if nothing else. I mean, people ask me all the time, well, how do you get in shape?
Get off the couch.
And I said, you just have to go out and start. You start so slow, and then you progress and you feel good. And then you might even need to check in with your doctor to make sure, what you're trying to do. But still, it's a matter of just getting up and getting going. My wife and I have stationary bicycles in the garage that we'll suffer through for an hour and look at each other like, are we sure we're having fun doing this? But it makes your cardiovascular system work. And so that's how you start. I mean, it's you got to start somewhere, and I just encouraged a group over the weekend, their first time up Whitney, and they came back and had a successful trip, and they said, well, that's number one. And I said, well, that's where I started, was number one.
That's right.
You don't jump in at 100. And so if anybody wants to really go out and do these kind of things, you just have to start with something small and get information about, well, what's the next step? And there's multiple ways to get out there and do that kind of stuff.
So do you have any daily routines you use to keep your sanity or health? You meditate? Obviously, you exercise every day, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah. Exercise is the key for me at the moment. But I like a routine of going to bed at 9 and getting up at 6. I think I've always been that kind of a bed routine. I don't like to stay up late. I don't drink at all, and I just but I do like to get up and have a little breakfast, and then sometimes every other day now I've been going out and walking anywhere from 10 to 15 miles because I am retired, and I just like to get out and be outdoors and doing things like that.
That's great.
And we'll go to Lone Pine, whenever we can. I remember somebody said to me when I heard they was trying to make up 100 times, and they said, well, Jack, I can understand you wanting to get up 100 times at Whitney, but I can't understand why you would want to drive from San Diego to Lone Pine 100 times.
Yeah, it's a long drive.
But I don't know. I'm pretty simple-minded guy, but I've enjoyed my skinny body.
Yeah, exactly. You're fit. That's right.
Paid off now. Yeah.
And do you have any? Are you a big reader? Do you have any favorite books, or do you give books as gifts?
I'm not a reader per se. I'm embarrassed to say that, but there is a book. There is a book that I've always thought was interesting to read. And of course, it'd have to be a Whitney book, and it's from the store. It's written by Doug Thompson, and it's called Mount Whitney. Whitney lore, Mount Whitney lore, and he puts in, it's the second edition. He's put in so much good information about
good.
going up the mountain and things that, we keep kidding him, Doug, you need to write a third and a fourth, because there's so much stuff that happens daily around Whitney. Some of it good, some of it bad, but that's a book that I really enjoy, and I even will pick it up and glance through it to see if I've missed anything before.
Well, we'll put a link to in the show notes.
Yeah, great. Good.
Yeah.
Good.
The show notes will be at the outdoorbizpodcast.com/episodes/045. And do you have any favorite outdoor gear purchase under $100?
Well, I think the one that I always recommend to people if they're just getting started is to get a SteriPen water filter.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And I believe Kurt kind of sold me on it too. And Kurt takes it all over the world, as you know. Wedberg goes all over the world, and he takes that SteriPen. And so I think, that's a gift, or that's something you could always have with you when you're going out in adventures like that, and not have to worry about the water conditions.
Yeah,
and so I've been fortunate on Whitney that usually it's clean water, but you never know. And but I think a SteriPen is a great invention. I mean, we used to have the pump, but everybody advances through that stuff. And now I think the SteriPen is really,
it's pretty
really
good.
I comes in handy.
Yeah, it's a good tool. Let's see, as we go up to wrap here, anything you want to say to the audience or ask of our audience?
I just hope that everybody, if you have a feeling that you think you want to go out and do these kind of things, then hopefully you will. This kind of forum, Rick, is really great for folks that want to hear other stories. And I think, I'm not the craziest guy on the mountain, but I'm probably getting close to it. But, it's all in fun, and it's just an enjoyment to be able to do these things. And I hope other people could go out and get into if it's not the Sierras, get somewhere else, do something else. But it's out there for us to adventure into, and I hope that's something that they get from this talk.
Just go. Yep, that's great. Yep. And where can people find you? Your website is the best?
Yes, it's crazyjacknortham.com. And I do have an email address that's on there, and I even put my cell phone on there. I'm ready to talk to anybody and everybody. So, if you go to crazyjacknortham.com, you'll find my website, and it's kind of in progress still. I've still got to work on getting people to help me, because I am so out of touch with social media that this is a real adventure for me just to talk to you.
Exactly.
But
that's great. Glad to have you on.
It's the future.
No, glad to have you on. This will be interesting. Have you ever done the A16 three-peak challenge?
Well, I wish you could have asked me that earlier, because I that's one of my goals, and I think gonna. It's always been though where we've had conflicts, and that's not an excuse. It's just an excuse. But I want to say yes. I want to do the three-peak challenge. My wife's done it without the in one day thing. But I'm going to do that coming as soon as I get next year rolls around. I'm going to make sure I have the time, and that's one of those really battles, boy. That's a tough one. But I think I'm still willing to give it a try. And it's the driving in between that might kill me, but I think it's something I want to get done. So yes.
I think it's the Mark Fulton 10,000 meter challenge officially now after Mark. Oh, Fulton.
Is it?
I think I'll double check that and make sure I get the right link. But
that's it. Well, we're blessed in Southern California.
Yeah,
Come
exactly.
On,
I
asked those. By the way, I asked those guys that were hiking all of the peaks. I said, "What's the lowest peak in the United States?" And they said, "Well, Florida is only 345 feet high." And I said, "Oh my gosh, really? I live at 300 feet, and I thought I was close to sea." But so we're blessed. We are actually blessed to have all of these beautiful, beautiful Sierras and activities around it. So,
everything's so close. Yep. Well, I appreciate the time, Jack. Thanks for being on the show.
Thanks for having us.
I hope you enjoyed that conversation with Crazy Jack Northam. He's easy to find on the internet. Just search for Crazy Jack. Or you can visit his website at crazyjacknortham.com. Northam is Northam. You'll find links to all the info we discussed in the show notes at theoutdoorbizpodcast.com/episodes/045. I'd be stoked if you shared your favorite episodes on the socials. And until next time, thank you so much for listening. This episode's featured advocacy group is the California Wilderness Coalition. Cal Wild is a nonprofit whose mission is to protect and restore the wildest landscapes and watersheds on California's public lands. Since 1976, Cal Wild has helped protect over 14 million acres of wilderness and 1,500 miles of wild and scenic rivers. The organization helps bridge the gap between local stewards who know their public lands intimately and the state and federal agencies that manage those lands, forming valuable partnerships at all levels. When you become a member today at the $65 family level, they'll send you a copy of Tim Palmer's book, California Glaciers, for free. Join today at calwild.org/biz. If you want more of the Outdoor Biz Podcast, you can subscribe on iTunes and Stitcher, or go to theoutdoorbizpodcast.com, where you find all the episodes, show notes, and much, much more. You can find us on Facebook and Instagram at The Outdoor Biz Podcast, Twitter at Rick_Saez, that's S-A-E-Z, and my email is rick@theoutdoorbizpodcast.com. Thanks for listening and all the support, and a huge shout out to all my guests, and until next time, be sure to make time to get outside.